Well, the last time I spoke to you, it was pretty manic. I imagine things are a lot calmer now. What's been the most beneficial thing you've had from the international break working with the players for this 2-week period?
I think obviously the amount of time that goes into preparing for games, so the amount of video work, the opposition work, the game plans that we create, I think it was an opportunity to kind of shift the emphasis onto our general principles of play. So, obviously we spoke after QPR about the out of possession, how we want to defend, so we could revisit a little bit of that. But mainly, the biggest chunk of work's been in possession, what we're trying to do, I said around the shape that we try to create, but then how you play that, what you're looking for, the pictures, and the players have responded really well. So that's probably the biggest bit, being able to address some of the key principles of how we want to play. I
wonder how much of QPR was a Liam Manning team, if you like, and Middlesbrough on Saturday. How much of your influence do you think will be on the team this weekend?
Well, I think hopefully you'll see some steps. I was impressed at QPR how quickly the lads took on some of the information that we'd given them. And it's always going to take time. I think that we have to be quite clear on that. There's different ways of working, different methods, players being asked to do different things. You don't pick that up straight away. So I'm excited. I think, the work that we've done and, with videos, animations to then go out and train it, players have transferred it quite quickly and quite well. And I think that's the exciting bit now, to see what can they transfer into the games. And it won't, like I said, it won't just come out. It won't look perfect after 1 week, 2 weeks of training before the second game. So it'll take a bit of time, but that's the big bit. I'm looking forward now to see what they can transfer. And
how well have you gotten to know the players, not just on the pitch, but off it as well?
Yeah, I've sat with most of them. Still want to get around a few. The lads have been great, to be fair. Obviously, we had a few away, so that brings different challenges in itself. But the group that remained have been terrific. They've trained really well. We had an in-house game here. And it's been good. It's been a good opportunity to, like you say, accelerate some of those relationships, get to know some of the players. It's important for me that, person first, professional second, so I want to know them, I want to know about their families, and I think that side of it's really important. I said it in the very first press conference I did around, why I got into coaching. I want to help people, so again, I think that side of it, I think, is really important in getting to know them. So I've had a good opportunity to do that, as have Hoggy and Krause as well. So yeah, we've definitely moved forward in certain areas.
Sure, be hoping to make a good first impression on the City fans on Saturday. First and foremost, are you looking forward to your first home game at Bristol City?
Yeah, of course, can't wait. The travelling fans at QPR are outstanding. So again, to then come home and obviously have much bigger numbers, and I have to say that the fans I have met so far have been terrific. So can't wait to do the game on Saturday, and hopefully they can make it a tough place to come for us.
Middlesbrough had a sticky start to the season, but now they're probably one of the informed sides in the Championship, aren't they? Just what kind of challenge will Middlesbrough, I think 1 defeat in 12, Michael Carrick in charge, what kind of challenge are they on Saturday?
Yeah, really, really tough. I think, the start was maybe a little inevitable in terms of when you look at the transition they had in the squad. Obviously a terrific season last year in the job that, Michael did. And then if you look at, like I said, the summer they had with the ins and outs and, a lot of change to the squad. It takes time to embed new ideas and get your ways of working across. So for me, it doesn't surprise me. Did the pro license with Michael, so how he comes across as a person, and obviously his playing career and his coaching career to date. Obviously, he's hugely knowledgeable about the game. So it's a challenge, but one that I'm really looking forward to, because again, I think I've got a lot of belief and confidence in the group we've got here. So I'm looking forward to seeing us step up to it.
Yeah, when did you work with Michael then? When did you do your licence together?
Well, a few years ago, not crazy. I think we started in 2019. I think I was still at West Ham at the time. So, yeah, a few years ago now.
Okay. In terms of team news, be a detective here. Is it Joe Williams who might be available from QPR who wasn't in the last squad, and he must be itching to get involved in the first team again?
Yeah, Joe's been back training fully, so he's much closer, and he'll be available for selection. So that's obviously good news to have him back and available. He's trained well, and again gives us a different profile in there as well. So terrific to obviously have him back.
Everyone else back from the international duty. I think 3 players out. Are they come back unscathed?
Yeah, they've all come back okay. Obviously, varying minutes and schedules. So again, you have to be careful how we manage them when they come back into training today. So obviously, solid international break for the lads.
And it was lovely to see Rob Atkinson play for the under-21s the other week. How far away is he from first-team consideration, do you think?
Yeah, unfortunately he's had a little bit of a setback, Rob, so he's going to be out for a little, not a crazy amount of time, but he's just been set back a little bit, so we're going to miss him for a few weeks, which is disappointing. It's frustrating because he obviously looked terrific in that first half that he played. But that's sometimes the case when you've been out for such a long period of time, and you come back in, you tend to pick up a slight twinge somewhere else. So it's nothing major, nothing of huge concern. It's just going to be a little bit later than we'd hoped.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Would you have liked to have played Rob in the 21s on Monday, or did he play in the in-house game?
Yeah, he played a few minutes in the in-house game, and again, precautionary came off, and yeah, it's like I said, it's nothing major. It's more of a twinge, but something that when you've been out for that period of time that you can't risk. So he's going to be out for, like I said, a few weeks before, unfortunately, he's available for selection on a match day.
A couple more just to sort of catch up. I appreciate when you sort of come into a job, you've got the injury brief as well as dealing with the match preparation, all that. But Eamon Benarous as well, who's been out for a long period of time. We've not seen him for the 21s either. I just wondered how far he's obviously had two quite severe injuries. What his sort of progress is at the moment? Yeah, not good. He's going to be out for a considerable amount of time as well. So he's had a big setback. So yeah, unfortunately, we won't be seeing him for quite a while. Okay. Could you say in terms of what that is? Yeah, well, I'll go into a bit more detail probably next interview if that's okay. I think we're just kind of clarifying a few things at the minute. So it's looking like it's going to be quite a considerable amount of time. So again, feel free next interview we can go into a bit more depth and detail. No problem. In terms of sort of Rob and Eamon as how they're reacting to this, how you talk about personal relationships with the players. It must be difficult with the injured guys sometimes to get that contact that you do with the players in the first team. Like, how are they? Yeah, it's important that we. I'm always conscious of that as well, in terms of sometimes they're often in the treatment room, sometimes they're not out on the grass. I think it's really important for me that they feel part of it. So they sit in all the meetings that we have. I consciously try and pull, the lads regularly. So we've still got to get around a few. It's obviously been extremely hectic, but, Hayden, for example, I sat with him and had a chat with him. So again, I think it's important that the players feel part of it. So, we want the players to come up and have a chat with us and sit in the meetings, come out on the grass some days when, and fit their rehab sometimes around training. If the weather's okay, come out, watch training and fit your rehab around it. So again, I think it's really important that they still feel like footballers. And we can also, especially when they get closer to returning, actually educate them on the role of what they're going to be doing. So when they step on the grass, they're a bit fresher in their heads and clearer with, what's being asked of them. So for me, it's really important that they still feel like a footballer and not, someone that's living in the gym or just getting treatment. Is Naki any closer to being back in training? Hopefully, he's got a kind of a final stage thing this week, which we'll see how he responds to that, and then a decision will be made off the back of that where he's at. So still need to see how his body goes, but touch wood, I'm hoping in the near future. With the guys coming back, and you talk about different minutes, like how much do you put on that in terms of their potential selection for the weekend? Like, how are you assessing that specifically? Yeah, I think numerous bits. We'll look at data, we'll look at the time they played, but the big bit for me is actually having a chat with a player. I think that's really important to know how they feel. If the travelling they've done, the late nights, the bits that do actually have an impact that sometimes you think that it doesn't really have much difference, but it actually does, the time that they get back in. So I'd say that the three have reported back fine. Obviously Belly played a day earlier than obviously the two lads for Ireland, so he's obviously a day ahead in terms of where he's at recovery-wise. So it definitely plays a part of that. Also going into a 3-game week, obviously, going Saturday, Wednesday, Sunday with a heavy period. Not having huge numbers, we also have to be mindful of that. First and foremost, I'll pick a team to try and win the game Saturday. But at the same point, I also have an element where, in the back of my mind, I also have to, make sure that we're competitive and good to go on Wednesday as well. Just come back to the Michael Carrick thing. Obviously, I mean, did you bond over West Ham, or is there any kind of like when you go on it, when you're doing your pro license, like how close do you get to other coaches when you're doing that sort of course? Yeah, different levels with different people. I think in terms of it, got on great with him. To be fair, had a few chats, nothing super pally or stayed in touch or anything like that. It's not the case. I think it was more, when you're there, the level of respect, I think, and I've said Pro License does a good job of putting people with different backgrounds, different experiences, different, levels of expertise together, and then you get obviously a different level and different type of conversation at different angles. So, yeah, it was, I was fortunate. It was a really good cohort on that group. There was some really, some top coaches that have gone on to do well, but like I said, different experiences. So it was a good course. Sort of reflecting on QPR, I just wondered how many times have you watched that back? A couple, just a couple. Yeah, I watched it a few. Yeah. Is there anything new or different that you kind of took out of it that was like, sort of eureka moments, or was it kind of as you sort of saw it in the moment?
Yeah, no, a lot felt like it did after the game. To be fair, that especially first half, we a little bit disjointed at times in possession, a little bit passive with the ball, which felt like that. Obviously, watching the game live as well, and then the last 20 minutes, it felt like it did on the day where we shifted the control on top and took and started to dominate how we wanted it to look. And the out possession was. Yeah, how quickly, off the back of 2-3 sessions, how quickly they transferred what we'd asked them to do in the game plan. If you look at it, obviously no shots conceded on target. I thought did a terrific job of defending the box, blocked really well, went block to press majority of the time well. And of course, you're always going to look at it and move between the phases of the game and always look to, can we tweak this? Can we change this? Can we get better at that? We always have them moments, but on the whole, it was very much kind of what I felt afterwards as well.
And looking at that one sort of thing that you talk about, and appreciate it's first game, you haven't done the in possession stuff. Sort of Tommy Conway through the middle was quite isolated, wasn't as impactful as he, or I'm sure you would have liked to have been in a game. There's been, and again, this predates you sometimes, so it's a little bit difficult sometimes to talk about this, obviously, because you're new in the job, but there's a sort of a growing theory that he perhaps is better suited either in a 2 or as maybe as a slightly more withdrawn striker. I just wondered if you had any kind of opinion on that. And I appreciate you haven't been working with him for that long, so might be jumping a bit to conclusions. But I just wondered if you sort of had anything within that in that discussion.
Yeah, no, not so much that. I think the biggest bit, you also have to look at our QPR setup. So I think naturally, if you play against a team that blocks, your striker's going to have a lot less touches than if a team presses, only because of where they give you space. So the fact they gave us space in front and down the sides allowed us to have a lot of the ball in those areas, which, what you're then looking at is, you can drop Tommy outside it, but what we actually had to do a better job was getting into the wide areas behind them, so he's on the end of the finish. There's moments where we've done some work actually, and he picked it up quite quickly of when he arrives feet. So we've done some bits on that, and again, I think it's like I said, the structural stuff, the shape we try and create is actually how do you all around against the block. You tend to going to attack around the outsides and down the sides of them, and then he needs to be in the final phase, finishing it in the box. Which, like I said, if the last 20 minutes of the game is kind of for me where you want him in and around the box, looking to arrive on things. So I'm quite clear. I think that what you'll hopefully see over time, and we started to see in training this week, was we want to keep the ball, we want to attack, we want to get it to our front players because they're the ones that score goals. So it's giving the players the solutions and understanding of how they do that, how they get it to them areas. And that's, to be fair, where we've concentrated a bit of work in the last week.
Thanks so much, Liam. Cheers.
Thank you.
Hi, Liam. The club's got a really good track record of bringing players through the academy and the youth system. A lot of clubs, those kind of 21s, 18s, kind of mirror this similar style than the first team plays, so that young players can more seamlessly transition into the senior setup. I just wondered how many conversations you've had with kind of the under-21s manager, for example, on sharing kind of the tweaks on your style of play with them. Is that
Yeah, no, especially having been on the other side, being in the academy, is something that obviously I want a close relationship, and obviously Brian, with his background, is someone that I've had numerous chats with, and to be fair, we've watched the last 2 21s games, the last 18s games. So again, being present and seeing that, I think, and understanding the players and knowing the players, I think is really important. And it's something that will continue to grow. I think obviously the challenge when you come in and it's 100 mile an hour and trying to get to know a million names and faces and getting up to speed. So we'll definitely work closely with the 21s, 18s. And again, I think it's an important bit to continue building on is obviously the success that the club's had over time in developing our own talent.
Yeah, and Sam Bow and Tommy Conway are kind of the two over the last 12 months that have really made that big progression into the first team. This season, Ephraim Yeboah has kind of looked really exciting prospect going into the senior side when he's 17. I appreciate you probably haven't a lot of time to work with him, but I just wondered what your first impressions of him were as a player and as a person.
Yeah, in terms of character, wants to learn, wants to get better, wants to improve, which I think the second you see those behaviours, it's our job with them to make them better. I think you've got a chance of achieving your potential then. And then there's bits, I think, physically is extremely quick and willing to run, which is really important for how we want to play. It's now teaching him of when to run, where to run, how to run, and teaching him that side of it. So he's like I said, he's shown some flashes. He's obviously had some opportunity, and it's one now in terms of going forward where it's on us and him to make sure that he keeps learning, keeps progressing, and keeps developing.
Yeah, and just on Middlesbrough, I think you mentioned with your interview with the club that they're really good problem solvers. I just wondered what you meant by that. Is that in terms of kind of reacting to changes in the game, like the players themselves?
Yeah, just with some of their rotations, I think. And when you look at it, quite often you'll see certain games work out A to B to C. But again, I think when you throw D in the mix, what does it do? And I think that having watched quite a few of their games now, I think what they do a good job of is if we set up a certain way to press, they'll change how they build. And again, I think that then puts it back on us to then tweak and solve that problem of now how do we go and press because we need to adapt. So I think that they're the bits. And again, I think just good variation. I think when you look at it, they'll build short, they'll go through you, they'll go over you, they'll go around you. They've got real good variation, which for me, I like that in football. I think it makes it unpredictable, which as fans of the game, we like to see. And as a coach, it brings different challenges that you go tactically. How do we solve it? How do we set up that? We give the players the solutions, but I think we have to empower the players as well to feel it in game and make decisions because. Again, we can give them every answer, but they have to feel it on the pitch and see the pictures. So that's our job, to support and coach them. Yeah,
well, one of the criticisms here over kind of recent years so is that at times the team kind of struggles at sometimes when they have to have possession, they can't play on the counter-attack. So is turning this team into better problem solvers your kind of main aim over the weeks and months coming?
Yeah, and that takes time. I think that's the hardest thing. I think you can, if you force a team to go direct and take the decision away, I think you get a certain outcome which might hit a level the same as if you force a team to build. So again, I think it's that solution, and again, it's not just go and play off the cuff. I think it is we're real clear structures, clear rotations, and then there's understanding which one do you pick at the right time. So there's a real clear way of working. It's not just go and crack on, solve it yourself. We give them 3, 4, 5 solutions. They then need to make sure they pick the right one, given what the opposition do. And that's the game for me. The game's fluid. If we have a player in the pocket, it might be the centre back that steps, so we have to do this. If it's the 6 that steps, we have to do this. If the fullback comes inside, you have to do this. So again, I think and that's repetition. I think it's seeing them pictures, it's seeing them on the video, it's constantly rehearsing them and understanding which one is it and when.
Yeah, and just finally, just on a personal note, I just wondered if you have any pre-match superstitions or anything mentally you always do before a match.
I've got terrible OCD, to be fair, so it's probably not helpful for me in that. Yeah, I have little things that I do day before day of a game and during the game, which I've had a bit of stick for. So I'm sure the fans at some point will clock in game my little OCD that I have.
Can you give any hints what those might be? Or?
I have just my water bottle. Everybody will pick up on where I put my water bottle. My wife gives me a bit of stick for it, but it's just a little reset, refocus thing that helps me.
Cool, thanks for your time.
No problem.